For years, the Golden State Warriors were untouchable, winning championships, shattering three-point records, and completely redefining how basketball is played. They had a charismatic leader in Stephen Curry, a defensive heartbeat in Draymond Green, and the smooth stroke of Klay Thompson. They were celebrated as the NBA's premier dynasty, and for a while everyone else was simply competing for second place. But in recent seasons, everything has changed. Age began to creep in, injuries piled up, critics started shouting from every sports network that the Warriors' reign was officially finished. Then, just when it seemed the team had run out of magic, they made a mid-season move that sent ripples throughout the basketball world. It was a trade so unexpected that even the most plugged-in insiders had to confirm the rumors twice. And overnight, one of the most polarizing players in the NBA, Jimmy Butler, landed in Golden State. Suddenly, all those claims about the dynasty being dead started feeling premature. Because if you look closer at the bigger picture, you'll see that the Warriors might be on the brink of a comeback that nobody saw coming. And the rest of the league is about to find out why this one trade could spark a revival, unlike anything we've witnessed since their first title run. It's easy to forget how dominant the Warriors once were, considering the struggles they've had in recent seasons. But let's rewind to the mid-2010s, when Stephen Curry was emerging as the most electrifying shooter in basketball history. Night after night, he'd sink shots from distances that defied logic, and typically left opponents staring in disbelief. Draymond Green blossomed into a relentless defensive force who also orchestrated the offense like a seasoned point forward. Klay Thompson, ice cold from beyond the arc, combined beautiful shooting form with surprisingly tenacious defense. Together, they built one of the most fascinating basketball ecosystems we'd ever seen. This unstoppable unit secured multiple championships, not to mention a record-breaking 73-win regular season. Every sports outlet labeled them the future of basketball, praising their small ball lineups and how swiftly the ball zipped around the perimeter. Yet, every dynasty eventually faces a turning point. Injuries hammered Golden State just as Kevin Durant departed. In one painful season, Curry missed significant time with a hand injury, Klay Thompson tore his ACL, and later his Achilles, and Draymond was left to keep the ship afloat. The Warriors plummeted to the bottom of the standings, prompting talk that their best days had evaporated. Even when Klay returned from back-to-back injuries, Golden State's once unshakable core looked older and more vulnerable. The team brought in young prospects like Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and James Wiseman, hoping they'd be the bridge between the older championship heroes and the next era. But a lot of those plans fizzled or stalled. Even with occasional bright moments, the team struggled to maintain the relentless pace we'd grown used to. Worse, locker room tensions and on-court miscommunications fueled speculation that the Warriors had lost their once electric synergy. As the losing streaks piled up in recent years, sports media personalities were almost unanimous in their verdict. The dynasty was over. They harped on Steph Curry's age, Draymond's dwindling scoring output, and Klay's lost quickness on defense. They pointed to the league's evolution: more skilled big men, faster guards, and a new generation of do-it-all forwards like Luka Doncic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Meanwhile, the Warriors seemed stuck in a past blueprint that no longer terrified opponents. Around the 2025 trade deadline, the downward spiral reached a fever pitch. The Warriors were hit with brutal blowout losses from teams they used to dominate. They were no longer feared. Younger squads sprinted up and down the court, out-hustling them for loose balls. Articles proclaimed that the Warriors couldn't keep up with the NBA's new wave. Pundits insisted that the finals window had shut for good. This wasn't just a slump, this was, as many said, the final nail in the coffin of one of basketball's great dynasties. A large segment of the fan base grew restless too. Social media was ablaze with frustrated commentary about trades that didn't pan out, about front office decisions that felt more like gambles than savvy moves. For a franchise accustomed to contending for championships, these were uncharted waters. Local radio hosts debated whether Golden State should blow up the roster entirely or cling to any faint hope of winning another ring with Curry still in uniform. Then, at the peak of this frustration, something surprising happened. Rumblings of a last-ditch trade effort bubbled up. Names were thrown around, some realistic, most not. Maybe a star from an underperforming team would head to the Bay Area? Maybe Golden State would package its youth for a proven veteran. Nobody quite knew. And because the Warriors had disappointed so heavily, few people truly believed a single trade could change anything. Yet, it was in this skeptical atmosphere that the front office took the ultimate swing. On the eve of the trade deadline, news broke that Golden State had acquired Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat in a deal that involved Andrew Wiggins and some draft compensation. The reaction across the league was immediate and polarizing. Some saw it as a desperate last-ditch attempt to recapture lost glory, an all-in move that might backfire if Butler's intense personality disrupted the locker room. Others believed it could be the very jolt the Warriors needed. Jimmy Butler has a reputation unlike almost any other player in the NBA. He's known as a workhorse who thrives in clutch moments, a man who breathes competitiveness, and a talent whose impact goes beyond mere numbers. Miami adored him for taking them to 2 finals appearances despite a roster made mostly of undrafted players and overlooked prospects. But his journey to that success was littered with clashes and controversy. He famously had blow-ups in Minnesota, friction in Philadelphia, and critics labeling him difficult. Yet beneath all that conflict was an undeniable fact. Put Jimmy Butler on a basketball court in a high-pressure situation, and he will produce winning plays. From day one, Butler's presence in Golden State became the topic of national conversation. Skeptics questioned whether Butler's style would mesh with the pass-happy system that the Warriors love. They also wondered if the team had given up too much. Andrew Wiggins was younger, with a game that appeared tailor-made for the Warriors system. But at the same time, there was an air of excitement. Because if we've learned anything about Jimmy Butler, it's that when he's locked in, he's a killer who can tilt a series all by himself. Jimmy Butler's road to the NBA wasn't paved with the typical storybook glamour. He wasn't a lottery pick who found immediate fame and fortune. He grinded his way from a late first-round selection into one of the league's most respected two-way players. Along that journey, he made both friends and enemies. In Minnesota, he famously sparred with Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, calling out what he perceived as a lack of effort and urgency. That episode turned into a media circus, culminating in a legendary practice where Butler reportedly led third stringers to a scrimmage victory over the starters while screaming at management. Critics labeled him a locker room cancer. Supporters argued he was simply a relentless competitor who demanded excellence. Later, in Philadelphia, Butler meshed well with Joel Embiid, but seemed lukewarm on Ben Simmons. And there were rumors about friction with the Sixers coaching staff. When he ended up in Miami, many believed it would be the place where his personality was finally appreciated. Under head coach Eric Spoelstra and Heat president Pat Riley, that's exactly what happened. Miami's so-called Heat culture rewarded Butler's no-nonsense approach, catapulting him to multiple deep playoff runs. This same intensity is precisely what Golden State decided it needed. While Andrew Wiggins was a potent scorer and a consistent defender, the Warriors craved the fire Butler famously brings. Someone who loves to get in teammates' faces when they slack off, who chases every loose ball like his life depends on it, and who never shies away from a challenge. In the past, that dynamic was Draymond Green's territory, but time has a way of dulling even the sharpest edges. Critics felt Draymond's ferocity had waned, and the Warriors needed a fresh spark. Enter Jimmy Butler. On paper, Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler are an odd couple. Steph is the ultimate finesse sharpshooter, dancing behind the three-point line, whipping passes to open teammates, and dazzling the crowd with deep bombs that defy imagination. Jimmy is more bruiser than ballet dancer. He's about driving into the paint, seeking contact, pulling up in the mid-range, and bullying defenders on the low block. Yet, this contrast may be the Warriors' biggest asset. Opponents used to game plan around taking away Golden State's three-point barrage, often doubling Steph and running Klay off the line. Now, if they focus too heavily on Curry, Butler can punish them inside, slowing the game down with free throws and attacking the rim relentlessly. This style difference keeps defenses from locking in on any single approach. It could give Steph something he's rarely had: in-game breathers. Curry's known for his boundless movement off the ball, but as he ages, it's become clear that even the most brilliant shooter needs time to recharge during a game. Butler offers precisely that type of relief. Instead of Curry always orchestrating everything, Butler can shoulder the offense for stretches, especially in the clutch. Moreover, the tension of defending these two is immense. You can't stick a smaller guard on Butler without risking an immediate mismatch in the post. But if you assign a bigger wing to shadow him, who guards Curry? Every time a defense tries to solve this puzzle, it exposes a new weakness. Many analysts see this dynamic as a potential rebirth of the splash and slash style, reminiscent of how the Warriors once paired Curry's outside brilliance with Kevin Durant's mid-range dominance. Though Butler isn't Durant, he lacks the same size and elite shooting range. His fearless mindset and playoff heroics fit right into an environment that values intangible winning qualities. One of the biggest questions looming over this new lineup is how Draymond Green's voice and presence will coexist with Butler's. Both men are known for their intensity and willingness to call out teammates on mistakes. In the past, Draymond's challenges have ignited the Warriors, but they also led to friction, such as the infamous incident involving Jordan Poole. Combine that with Butler's fiery history, and you have the potential for an explosive locker room environment, either in a good or a bad way. However, some insiders believe that this might actually bolster team unity. Draymond, for all his outbursts, has always thrived when surrounded by players who match his competitive drive. He's publicly praised guys like Klay and Andre Iguodala for refusing to back down, and he's even spoken admiringly of players like Kevin Durant, who demanded accountability at every turn. Butler fits that mold. There's a scenario here where Draymond and Jimmy become unstoppable on the defensive end. Two intense veterans barking orders, rotating seamlessly, and setting a tone that younger players find impossible to ignore. That said, it won't be sunshine and roses all the time. There may be heated moments in practice or arguments in the locker room after a tough loss. But that might be exactly what the Warriors need to rekindle a championship spark, a sense of urgency born from two alpha personalities united by one goal: winning. If they can harness that energy in a positive way, the rest of the league could witness a Warriors renaissance fueled by the raw, unfiltered leadership that Butler and Green bring to the table. Critics who say the Warriors' time is up often point to the sheer talent in the NBA right now. Teams like the Cleveland Cavaliers boast a rising star backcourt with speed and skill that can run circles around older squads. The Boston Celtics have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, two relentless wings who still haven't reached their primes. The Denver Nuggets, featuring Nikola Jokic and an impressive supporting cast, represent the future of intelligent, positionless basketball. Meanwhile, the Memphis Grizzlies and Oklahoma City Thunder are brimming with young athletes who can jump out of the gym and shoot with range. So, in the eyes of many analysts, the Warriors' older core can't possibly keep pace. That unwavering swagger is exactly what you'd expect from Jimmy, but it also fuels the swirling rumors. Golden State's front office, of course, remains tight-lipped, releasing vague statements about believing in the roster's potential. For a franchise that once seemed content to gracefully age alongside Curry, Thompson, and Green, this sudden shift toward high-stakes drama reveals a willingness to gamble for one more ring. So here we are, less than a year removed from the Warriors being declared finished by countless experts and fans alike. A new generation of teams is fighting for the throne, and it's easy to see why so many believe the Warriors had finally taken their last breath as a legitimate contender. But with the addition of Jimmy Butler, everything feels different. The final verdict remains uncertain. Will the locker room find harmony under two of the league's most intense leaders, or implode under the weight of their egos? Will the younger prospects flourish in the presence of an unyielding mentor, or recoil at his demands? Will the Warriors stand tall once again in the postseason, or be swallowed by the unstoppable march of time? No one can predict the future, but that's precisely what makes this all so fascinating. Even if you're not a Warriors fan, you can't deny the intrigue of seeing a once-dominant dynasty try to defy Father Time one last time. A squad that redefined basketball with three-point marksmanship now just might reinvent itself with Butler's no-nonsense style. Perhaps they'll capture lightning in a bottle and remind the world that heart, grit, and proven championship DNA still matter, even in an NBA filled with rising phenoms. For the Golden State Warriors, this is more than just a trade. It's a statement that they're not ready to fade quietly into the background. And for Jimmy Butler, it's another shot to prove that he's one of the league's most influential winners, an iconoclast who can step into any environment and steer it toward success. Together, they've rewritten the script for the season's second half. Now, all eyes are on the Warriors as they mount what could be one of the greatest comeback chapters the NBA has ever seen. Because if there's one thing that's certain, it's that you should never count out a champion. Especially when a cold-blooded killer like Jimmy Butler joins forces with Stephen Curry and Draymond Green. The rest of the NBA might scoff today, but if history has taught us anything, it's that the Warriors can flip the narrative with a single unstoppable playoff run. And with a brand new weapon on their side, they're more than ready to prove every doubter wrong. So buckle up, because this ride is far from over. The Golden State Warriors still have pages left to write in their story, and Jimmy Butler is about to craft a few shocking chapters of his own. Will this gamble pay off with another ring and a fairy tale ending? Or will it unravel, proving the critics right once and for all? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, you don't want to blink, because in the wild world of the NBA, anything can happen. And sometimes, the greatest dynasties rise again when you least expect it.